Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, it probably surprised you when you got a notification a little while earlier saying that there was a new video and you clicked on it and it was one about Orlando in Disney World. Some of you probably weren't surprised. You knew it was coming. Other people might have been like, what the heck? This is nothing to do with Tottenham Hotspur. So I apologise if that was of no interest to you whatsoever. But I did promise I'd do a little travel video. It's my third one now. And that took a lot of editing. There was a lot of videos and things and photos and stuff to put together. Still very simple compared to anything anyone else does out there, but I enjoyed myself. It's just a little thing to, if it helps anyone, then great. But we're here for Tottenham Hotspur primarily. Of course we are. And also, actually, I did another little experiment, didn't I? I did the YouTube short, just to give a little update on the Antonio Conte contract. So hopefully you've seen that. If you haven't, you missed out on the fact that people discovered I have arms and hands, which is really weird because I guess from this position you probably don't see them as much, certainly my arms. So people are like, oh my goodness, and I think you could actually see, well, essentially my whole kind of upper torso. Not naked, of course, fully clothed. That sounded weirder than I really wanted it to. But yeah, if you want to go and have a look, it's because you have to do it in a portrait angle, which, I tell you what, the way these things go, that I do these videos, essentially it is me sitting down here talking to you in one take, getting my stream of consciousness out about Tottenham Hotspur, and that's what it is. I actually found it far more difficult to try and fit something into 60 seconds, which was that little short. I did about 5 or 6 versions of it, whereas when I do these, literally hit record and I go, and that's it. So yeah, I found that quite tricky, but hopefully if you did watch it, you got all the information. If you didn't see it, very quickly, I'm not going to be able to do it in 60 seconds because I was rubbish at doing that. What it is, Antonio Conte, I went and did a double check on his contract like I said I would, because I wasn't entirely sure, because we'd heard these suggestions that there was a thing called a two-way option, which is a legal thing that you can have in some contracts, where the person signing the contract and the employers have a mutual agreement. Essentially, they can decide if they want to invoke an option to extend a deal. But as it is, having gone away and done a little bit of digging, found out that Antonio Conte's one, the option lies in Tottenham's favour, which is obviously very good news for Spurs fans and Tottenham. Essentially, it means that at any point they can extend that contract when they feel fit to do so. So it's not a case of he has to sign to it. He already signed that contract that includes this option that Tottenham can extend it if they're happy with him. Obviously, it gives him another year of security, I guess. If they wanted to get rid of him after doing that, they'd have to pay him that extra. But the flip side is, if anyone else wants to come in and take him, Spurs can whack on that year. To be honest, it's what they do with all their players pretty much as well. Most of them have contracts that have this extra amount of time that can be chucked on the end as well. And yeah, so with Conte, yeah, whatever happens, Tottenham, if they wanted to, could have him until the end of his current contract ends 2023 season. At the end of, they could extend it to 2023-24 season. But like I said in that little video, there's suggestions from people around him that he'd actually, would be more than inclined to have a chat and discussion about a new contract if that were to come up as well. So hopefully all settled and focused at the moment, which is great. Spurs are doing well right now. I know they're not playing great, but the results say everything, and you can feel the forward momentum building at the club, and everyone's very happy with what he's doing. From what I'm told, he's very happy and settled. So look, it's Antonio Conte, so we don't know what the future holds in terms of where his head's at. There were certain points last season where I think he wanted out of Tottenham Hotspur. I got that impression. That's my opinion. That's not to say he did, but my opinion felt that he felt he could do better. Sounds harsh, but essentially felt that he could win trophies, I guess, elsewhere, and maybe couldn't at Tottenham. But I feel it seems like he feels that he's building something now, and those around him are trying to build for him. And obviously, January window is going to be very important again. But like I say, hopefully, some of the panic stations that I think people entered this week a little bit, ahead of anything that could possibly happen. That wasn't a word I was looking for. Not presumptuous. This is the trouble sometimes. Things go out your brain when you're trying to think of the most simple words that people underneath will be saying. Yeah, they didn't need to get too panicky. He says as the next day Conte quits or something, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, at the moment everything seems happy and settled. I think he's been back in Italy in this international break, getting some much needed time with the family, and there hasn't been many people at Hotspur Way, first team players, to train. There's so many internationals this break; it's incredible. Yeah, I must say, I also thought another little thing I'm going to comment on very quickly on social media. People getting very angry with Perisic and Hojbjerg because they felt Ivan Perisic went off injured because of because I must admit I looked at social media first, which is obviously the wrong way around to do things. I was like, oh my God, what terrible tackle has he done? And someone had put the video up. Literally, Hojbjerg turned. That was it. There was no tackle. And kind of Perisic just went into the back of him. There wasn't really any kind of tackle. It was just shielding the ball. And I don't even know if Perisic was injured. There's some people suggesting that, that it was an injury. He just came off and maybe he'd had a little bit of stiffness in his back or so. I don't know. Again, before any aggregators or anything chuck out, Alistair Gold says this. I don't know. It's pretty much near impossible to try and get injury updates from people in and around the club during an international break because often they're not dealing with the players, so they don't really know the full extent of anything. So it may be the fact that Perisic doesn't have an injury at all and he'd literally just been stiffening up. It could be any reason he came off. I can't remember when Croatia's next match is, actually. I might have it right here. Croatia are playing again on, if you bear with me, Sunday. Playing away against Austria on Sunday night. So we'll see. If he's involved in that, then he's absolutely fine. If he's not, it could be precautionary. It could be anything. We're waiting to find out about loads of players after the international break. It's always one of those like cringy moments, kind of fingers crossed for the managers while they wait to find out what's happening. So yeah, I think that's only little bits of housekeeping I need to do. Essentially, it's now just to drop into a Q&A because people, you've been chucking in your questions, so many of them, and I'm going to endeavour to try and get through as many as possible. Apologies to those who don't like non-Tottenham Hotspur questions. You've heard me say before, there was this one older chap who sent me an email saying he was very annoyed that I wasn't talking about Tottenham Hotspur in some of the questions. This was a few months back. Unfortunately, that's kind of what you're going to get with me. Anyone that knows me and watches these knows I love my movies, so you're going to get movie stuff chucked in there at times. You're going to get the odd travel video clearly chucked in there at times. Some people have been saying about doing movie review videos. I don't know. I do love movies. I do like to talk about them. So who knows what the future holds, but probably not for now. I had one chap very kindly offered me the chance to do a new podcast that would kind of involve movies as well. It's just I just don't have the time at the moment because everything's so mad. But again, for the future, who knows? So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But don't worry, there's plenty of Tottenham Hotspur questions. I had a very quick glance over them. But like I say, on the whole, I like to just answer them on the fly. Makes them more fun for me as well. So let's dive straight in. Navala Robert asks, hi Alistair, do you think that with a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold or Hakimi, I know they're out of our reach, but someone in that mould, could we win the Premier League? Or is it the case that we can only win it if Manchester City slip? I would say anyone who wins the league this season, if it's not Man City, it's probably because Manchester City slipped. Manchester City are a powerhouse. They are obviously incredibly well funded over the years. They've gone out and got exactly what they wanted, the best in the position pretty much that they wanted to get. And look, they won the Premier League and brought in Haaland. This is the thing. This is why I think when people say to Conte in a press conference, not me, but some people do, they're like, oh, do you feel you've closed that gap now? That's why he has a bit of a chuckle, because he can just look at that and say, City have just brought in Haaland. It's just like, it's madness. They've gone out and bought probably one of the best strikers, well, definitely one of the best strikers in the world right now. And he's laying a claim to try and be the Premier League's best with his start as well, which hopefully Harry Kane will have something to say about. I know, actually, verbally, he's been very polite. I saw someone asked him on England duty. Actually, on Harry Kane, quite interesting, before I forget, I noticed that he'd said that he had a new personal trainer behind the scenes that had been helping him out with his injury prevention, essentially, which is true. I do think there's an element of being a lot fitter as well. I think Conte's got him a lot fitter at Hotspur way. I do think there's probably an element of fortune as well. I don't think you can I think you can be absolutely do everything for your muscles to be able to prevent any injury. But some of the ankle ones that Kane's had, I actually feel have been really unfortunate. It's been an iffy tackle, a late tackle, just a foot getting pinned underneath. I don't know if you can prepare for that, as someone that's very much on a very much lower level, has had his own ankle injuries when playing football. Sometimes it's just bad luck. It can be a way you stumble. It can be turning your ankle. It can be someone else doing the challenge. I think the worst one I got was ankle ligaments, and it was a tackle on me, which wasn't it wasn't a bad deliberate tackle or anything. It was just unfortunately kind of took me and the ball with it. Sorry, I've completely gone away from the question. I'll get back to that. But good that Harry Kane is obviously focusing on that on the outside as well. In terms of a right wing back being in the future, who knows? Jed Spence, if Antonio Conte decides to give him a chance, maybe he could be the guy. Maybe he decides. I'm very wary that I'm very bright today. I've put an extra light over there because I felt that a few of the other couple of videos I've done, when it gets dark outside, my little light in this office was kind of making the camera quality not great because it wasn't great. So I put another light, which makes it look like I'm doing one of these kind of, I think, is it the people that do the Instagram videos and have these big circle lights round? It's not that. It is a desk lamp across from me on the floor. But I am wary that it's actually lighting my face up a little bit too much. It's a little bit weird. So I'll get it right at some point. I think you can tell this is all very rough and rawly done. There really is no rhyme or reason or thought process behind anything. Hey, fits nicely with Tottenham Hotspur sometimes, doesn't it? But yeah, in terms of right wing back being the difference, like a world class one, I guess that's kind of the point of Navala's question. I think Spurs maybe need a couple of players to be there. I think probably another attacking player as well, like an attacking midfield type, as I've said in the past. But look, I think they are closing the gap. I think the gap this season will be less than it was last season. I think I looked at the numbers. When was it? I can't remember if I said it in the last video or another one. But they've closed the gap so much between the 2022. If you did a calendar table of 2022 and a calendar table of 2021, I think 2021, Spurs and Man City were something like, I feel like it was maybe 30-something points difference for the calendar year. For 2022, which obviously is all Conte, there's something like 3 points behind City. It's like, and that tells you a lot. Obviously, they haven't played as many games yet. Of course, you've got the remaining few months of the year, but I do think that says a lot. And Spurs are on the right path, but yeah, I just feel like City are going to be far ahead of everyone. I'd love if Spurs shocked them completely and City did slip. It would be an awesome season to cover, but I think it's going to be a good season to cover whatever. Next one, Jacques perhaps, Jacques Belgin asks, a question for your next video. Have you seen the new Star Wars Disney Plus series and/or, if not, I highly recommend it. I have watched the first 3 last night, actually. Stayed up very late to watch them. I like it. I do like it. It's slow. It's slower paced. It hasn't got as much action as you'd expect from a Star Wars series, but I'm not entirely sure that's a bad thing. I think it sets up the characters really well. And I enjoyed it, and it builds up the suspense as well. Yeah, good. It's a good show so far. Hopefully the rest of it follows in kind. Kimchi asks, do you think Poch could have developed or reinvented a second successful team, as Fergie did so very often at United, given the same backing, or was the feeling around the club that things were over, rightly or wrongly, for that era in some way? Not harking back to the past for no reason, there is still a feeling with some of his things weren't handled well and the full story is yet to come out. I think it's a really difficult one because I wasn't happy with it at the time. I really wasn't. You can go back and look at the videos. I really wasn't happy at all with it. I didn't feel Poch was treated particularly greatly towards the end in the way he was dispensed with, a few months after a historic Champions League final appearance. What I would say, I did feel, this is only from personal experience of seeing him out on the tour and everything and kind of behind the scenes as well, I didn't feel Poch was quite the same after that final. I feel he'd lost a bit of spark. if any time in their career they needed a little sabbatical, that's it. But obviously you just don't get that really in football, especially in the Premier League. I think he kind of just could have done with maybe 6 months just to recharge, and obviously you don't get that. And just something about the club and the timing of the play. There were too many players that maybe felt that things had reached their peak of that era, and they obviously wanted to move on, and we saw them go their different ways. Who knows? Maybe his second team, as it were, will be a few years down the line. He's still a young manager, relatively, and maybe comes back one day and does that. But maybe at the time, I just feel that it would have been very difficult. I think they would have had to take a step backwards to then rebuild. And I think the difference maybe with Fergie and Man United is they were able to do it as a constant kind of refresh. He would often kind of get rid of one big player a year, wouldn't he? Like a Yapstam type, a Roy Keane, whatever, towards the end. But he would replace them with like one of the best around. Whereas Spurs, obviously, it's a different thing. There was you think about all the players that started to get towards the end of their peaks at that time, past their prime, perhaps, Vertonghen's, Alderweireld's, Dembele, of course. Eriksen wanted to go. Obviously, Dele was starting, unfortunately, his decline as well. So there were so many big key players in there that were kind of needed, I guess, refreshing. At Tottenham at that point, too big a rebuild, I feel. But yeah, maybe one day. K-Mac asked, what are some of your favourite cuisines from your travels? When you cover European matches, do they offer local food in the press box that you found enjoyable? Yeah, they do. They do. We always have the local food when we're there. One of the best, which actually surprised me that I really liked, I didn't think it was something beforehand I would, was at Dortmund in the Champions League, currywurst, which was lovely. It was so, so nice. I don't know whether we get something like that in Frankfurt in a couple of weeks' time. What else? Obviously Korea. Oh, Korea. Korean food was incredible. Sungmo, my journalistic friend and friend, was essentially my guide to all things Korea out there. And if you didn't see the kind of things that he was putting out there in his photos on Twitter and Instagram, we made a point of, I went to him and I said, I'm not eating any kind of Western food. Everything, every lunch, every dinner, go for it. You show me kind of the food. Nothing too spicy. I don't like stuff too spicy, but go wild, essentially. And honestly, some of the best meals. Incredible. Wow. Yeah, fantastic. So that probably answers that one, I think. I'm trying to think of any other ones local. When we went to Serbia, it was Belgrade, wasn't it? They had some really nice kind of local foods as well. They like their meat out there, meat and a lot of potato-y stuff. Athens, when we were in Athens with Spurs, obviously all of their kind of local things and the salads and stuff are very, very nice. I'm sure I've missed some really obvious ones. But yeah, essentially, it widely varies. Some clubs, they'll give you a sandwich, and that's kind of it. So they'll give you not a doggy bag, essentially just a paper bag that normally will give you a drink, like Sporting, as an example. At Sporting the other week, we were given a bag which had a bottle of water, an apple, a Mars bar, and a little like a roll with meats in it, which is nice. Some clubs lay on a spread. Obviously, Tottenham do a proper big media food thing. It really depends on the club. But yeah, it's not really why I'm going there, the free food, although it is very nice. I won't lie. Obviously it's more about the match and everything. But sometimes you can get some very nice food. What else we got? Keith Moon asks, hey Ali, I've always wondered, what does your match day look like? By match day, I mean obviously a Tottenham match. So, yeah, I've had a couple of other people ask me that as well, so it's a good time to answer that one. I will try to usually get to the game about 3 hours before kickoff, so I can start setting up everything I've got to do before. It's not to go there and get the food, despite what I've just said. It is to start setting up stuff, because in my job we do a lot of stuff in matches. We do run a live blog, obviously do the team news, do any injury news as well, do player ratings, set up a press conference blog for after it, run the press conference blog, do a transcript from the press conference, and then I'll get in and write talking points as well. And anything that happens in the game we feel have to break out as a story, we do as well. So we do quite a lot guest night matches. So I tried to get there 3 hours before. Obviously, when it's Spurs for me, it's not a nice quick journey. It's only about half an hour away or so. Obviously, when it's away days, it can be some big old treks. Got some interesting ones coming up with the train strikes as well and how that's going to work exactly. So 3 hours there before, settle in. I normally will, if I can, we'll go up and have a look out at the press box, look across at the pitch, see what things are like, and then come back down. Then once the match, actually someone asked me this, I don't know if I answered this before, do I ever like celebrate goals and things like that? I don't. Obviously you fully well know that when I was young, I was brought up a Spurs fan, very much had no choice. I was always going to be a Spurs fan. And I did think to myself, my first ever Tottenham game was Everton away, Goodison Park, 2016, as a journalist. And I wondered to myself going into it, it's like, am I going to like go, like Eric Lamela headed in a goal? I think it was the equaliser. I'm thinking, where am I going to celebrate? And I think I was so focused on being professional and not doing that I didn't do that, and I never have. I've sometimes under my breath been like, oh, wow, like obviously like the night in Amsterdam when Lucas scores his third goal. That's everything. That's the original fan in you, but there's also the football lover in you, and just thinking what an incredible moment kind of thing and stuff like that. And obviously the White Hart Lane finale and the emotion of it, it's a whole other ball game. But yeah, no, I don't really enjoy matches. I do. When you're a reporter, the one thing you do miss is being able to watch 90 minutes fully, because you are constantly like that. You are constantly looking up and down. And that obviously means sometimes you'll miss little bits, like who played the first pass in a move, or sometimes who slung in a long ball that ended up being a chance because you suddenly heard noise, the crowd went, so you looked up. Especially in the second half, that's when you're really writing so much. So yeah, do that. Then the final whistle, I have to get my player ratings out whilst finishing off the press conference blog, which kind of acts as a bit of a match. We don't really do match reports anymore because how do I put this? In a newspaper, I think they're and the big nationals, obviously they still do theirs, and I think there's maybe a historic thing there of people still going to look at their match reports. I don't feel like in the digital world that as important anymore, and I think even you'll find in the national ones they'll be often quote driven now. You'll find that they're topped off by the quotes that come after a match. And for us, we don't really do that. I'll have a kind of a mini match report within my blog about the press conference, which I will then use and update during the actual press conference. So I go straight down. I often get people, it's quite funny, apparently sometimes people on the tours of the stadium ask where I sit, which is very cool. It's very cool. I love that. And I'll have people that work in the club that have told me, or sometimes people who give the tours have told me they've been asked. And even today, someone my wife knows actually sent me a photo. They were on a tour, and they were like, we were sitting in the seat. They actually weren't. They weren't. I can tell you exactly where I sit. For matches, I am often kind of just to the left of the centre line. It's difficult to explain when you look at that, but I'm first row essentially next to the tunnel where we come into the press area, which is a couple of rows away from fans on either side. And when it comes to the press conference room, which I have to go straight down to as soon as I got my player ratings published, I sit normally in the front row in the stadium. I think it's normally about seat 10, 8, 9, 10, around that area. It's normally roughly central. The main reason for sitting in the front is not to be like the big, hey, I'm in the front row. It's more the fact I want to get my phone and put it on the table to be able to record what Conte and the other opposition managers saying. So it's much easier if you're in the front row to just go up and do that. And when I'm at the training ground, I normally sit to the right of the front row purely because there's plugs on that side. It's nice and easy to plug in my laptop if it's running low. That was unnecessary for you, but there you go. And I'm normally there a good 2 hours after the final whistle, 90 minutes to 2 hours. it depends how long. Like Conte after the Leicester game didn't come out for more than an hour. So we were working away in the press conference auditorium, and then obviously going to the media area to type everything up, transcribe, get the transcript up, and then I'll head off and I'll start writing my talking points on the train back. If I can. Sometimes some very nice fans want to chat, which is absolutely fine, but it doesn't let me do my talking points, which means I get in here and there can be some very late nights working in this office doing my talking points after a match. Very, very, very late nights. Sometimes they're finished, 2, 3 in the morning, so they can go up at 8 or 9 in the morning. But it's all part of the job. I'm certainly not complaining because it's a fun job. Rich R asks, Thomas, random one. Do you have a personal adage or principle you always abide by? And if that's too serious, do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies in movies? First one, personal adage or principle. I think I've said it before. It's better to be right than first. Sometimes you can be right and first, but for me, I just want to always make sure what I get is right. And look, I know journalism, the way it works. Sometimes you can get what is right, and 24 hours later it seems wrong because events have moved on. But the key for me is, as always, you've heard me say before, is get everything checked out. Try and get at least 2 to 3 sources to confirm something, and that's the way it goes out. I'm sure there are some people that go out there and put information out there having only got it from one source. And you can be right in that, but you can also be very wrong in that as well. So, yeah, I guess that's my adage. That's the way I try and do it. I guess that comes from my news days. I was about 5 years as a news reporter doing crime, inquests, really kind of serious news stories, some really horrible stuff having to report on. I think the pressure to make sure that is right and get everything confirmed and right. Hopefully, if there's anything positive that comes from doing some of the darker stuff in life that you have to do in that job, it's bringing that into the football thing and making sure you try and get everything confirmed. Hopefully that's my adage. Fast or slow zombies? Oh, I hope slow zombies. Fast zombies, oh God. God help us all if there were fast zombies in the world. What was the one? The Brad Pitt one. X. I've completely forgot what it's called. Something X. I can't remember. Brad Pitt one where they're all racing around in that one. That's horrific. And they form that big kind of thing trying to get up to the helicopter. What else we got here? Christopher. Sorry about this. I'm going to kill your pronunciation of his surname. Malakazera. Christopher Malakazera. Do you know how the players meet pre-game? Do they meet at Hotspur Way and come together, or do they, I presume that's get to the stadium? If so, they have special parking. On the whole, different managers I think have different ways. On the whole, I think they meet up at Hotspur Way, but there are occasions when they'll drive in and they'll drive in underneath the ground. Occasionally, I think, was it Ben Davies a couple of weeks ago? Some people saw Ben Davies getting like public transport away from the game. I can't remember why that was. There was a reason. I think he told someone. But yeah, I think on the whole they try to get them together, so they arrive as a kind of a group thing, and you'll see them filter in from the other side where the coach pulls in. But occasionally there will be they'll use the underground car park as well. What else we got? C Cubed asks, why do you think Kane is still on free kicks? I think if you've seen the Sonny goal for South Korea, was it Costa Rica? Last seconds. Tell you what, that man takes some fantastic free kicks, and he does it at big moments. He's done a few, hasn't he, for Korea recently, in big moments late in games. Was it Chile? I'm trying to remember who he did it against before. It's a funny one. I think we probably have this perception that Kane takes every free kick. I don't know if he actually does. I know he takes a fair few, but I'm trying to think in my head, does he actually take... I know Dyer takes some as well. I think Sonny has to take... Sonny takes the indirect free kicks, obviously. We've seen him do that, and Perisic now, I think, will share those. I would love to see Sonny get some more direct chances because, yeah, of course, Harry Kane will know. He will look at his numbers. They're not good for free kicks. He may bend them in the top corner every time in training, but for some reason in matches, it's not happening. Of course, I think we'd be very willing to give Sonny a go, especially what he's been doing in recent matches. I think, on the whole, it's just lovely to see Sonny has clearly got his confidence back, which is fantastic. Jonathan Sharp asked a similar question actually about a normal day. A normal day, sorry, not a match day or presser. Are you just writing all day? How much freedom do you have around stories? Are you asked to write a story about certain subjects, or can you decide what you'd like to cover? All of the above, really. Yes, I am writing most of the day. We have set hours, but obviously in journalism it doesn't always work out that you stick to those set hours. I have quite a bit of freedom to go out and try and do what I want to do, find out what I want to find out and stuff like that. But of course, my boss, Lee, he will sometimes come up and say, this has happened, that has happened. Can we get something on this? Can we do something along these lines and things like that? It's we've got a good relationship, so we do kind of. It's a bit of all of the above, really, is the answer to that one. Andreas K asks, can you exclude articles that you enjoy writing the most? Let's maybe explain. I don't know. Articles that you enjoy writing the most, talking points after games, press conference stuff, player ratings, or what? I think that means, tell us which articles you enjoy writing the most. I'm not a massive fan of player ratings. It's there. It has to be done because it gets people talking. But as I've said before, they're so subjective in terms of what you see. And nobody is ever going to agree on player ratings. I had to do my season's player ratings the other day. When was it? Yesterday or the day before, which is really interesting because what I do is I don't do them as comparisons with each player. I do those as a player rating based on that player's standards. Have they met them for this so far in the season, kind of thing, rather than comparing. Oh, blah blah's got this number and blah blah's got that. How does that work? It's not really that. It's their individual thing based on their potential and what they should have reached. But in terms of match player ratings, they're one of those things. I wouldn't say I hate writing them at all. I just think they're one of those, I've said before, I just switch off. Once I hit publish, I switch off. I do not look at what people say about them because it's pointless. Because everyone has a contrasting view on them. Talking points I do enjoy. That's probably the one where I really get to let loose. I write them quite long. They become almost like a feature in themselves. I'll do 4 or 5 different ones, and essentially they're almost 4 or 5 articles in one. But I think we're at a point where, thankfully, as very, very kind people are, that they seem to be quite popular. They do big, like, get a lot of people, still a black impression there, a lot of people reading them, many thousands. So I think that's a place I'll get almost like my weekly thoughts into them. And then sometimes I'll get offsprings of other ideas from them to write other articles. But probably my talking points. I probably enjoy writing those the most out of the things I write in a week. I'd have to really, because some of the late nights I end up writing them. What else we got? Alex Moole asked, what past players do you think best fit the Conte 3-4-3 system? I reckon Rio Ferdinand coming out of defence, Dembele and Yaya Toure as the 2 in midfield, Cafu and Carlos wing-backs, maybe Maradona and George Best in the 2 number 10 roles. Whoa, Corey, I thought you were going Spurs past players, but you've probably gone all over there. Yaya Toure would have been class. Watched that, really good. The little interview with Basuma, and it's like a chat. Basuma and Yaya Toure is really nice. Watch that on the Spurs YouTube if you can. Yaya Toure was class. He'd have been brilliant in that midfield duo. With Dembele, that's a great shout. That'd have been a really good pairing. And actually, out of interest, on the Spurs plaything, I watched the Lucas Moura documentary. Is it Me? I think it's called. I actually preferred. They kind of go into Spurs stuff in the latter 15, 20 minutes or so, but we kind of know most of that. I actually found really interesting was when they went to Brazil, all his childhood. And I don't think I realised or remembered how big a sensation Lucas Moura was as a young kid. He was the big thing in Brazilian football. And it's really interesting. Kind of they talk to his old coaches, talk to his family out there and how much it means. He's such a family guy, and you can kind of see that. And I didn't realise, even going on to the Ajax thing, that his wife, Larissa, when he scored, they were celebrating so much that third goal, she actually started having some contractions and she was only 5 months pregnant. And he essentially, in a way, he rang. He just had this sense he had to ring home and he was speaking to her and he had to kind of calm her down because thankfully it never went any further than that. But no, that's a good documentary. It is. I know some of the guys that kind of did parts of that and produced that and at Spurs. And I know they put a lot of effort into it, and you can see that. It feels like a lot's gone into it. It's only like 45 to 50 minutes or so, but the real care that's gone into it, especially going over to Brazil and getting all of that, it's good. It is good as they go. Because I was quite disappointed with it was the one that was kind of billed as a big Conte on his time, and it ended up almost feeling like a season review. I felt it was quite dry, and it didn't offer much new. Whereas I felt this Lucas Moura one was good. It was good. Again, sorry, I've completely gone away from your question. Conte 3-4-3 system. I'll go with Spurs players of the past. I think. Oh, who would have? I'm trying to think where Ginola would have fit in there. Could you have played Ginola as a number 10? I don't know. Darren Anderson as a wing back. Didn't he do that in? Did he do that in Euro '96? I'm trying to think now. I think he did, didn't he? Could have had Darren Anderson as a right wing back. Obviously Ledley playing the central bring the ball out role that Eric Dyer plays now, I think would have been very good as well. Dembele and Yaya Toure, I like that. I know Yaya Toure wasn't former Spurs, but he's now Spurs coach, so we'll chuck him in there as well. Up front, Teddy, of course, could have been very good in that role. Other than that, a nice blend, I think, between those two teams would have been very good. Obviously, Glenn Hoddle. Where would Glenn Hoddle fit in? Probably have to be one of the number 10s, because putting him in that, you'd have had to go with 3-5-2, I think, to maybe get him into that central midfield, possibly. That's who I'll go for. What else we got? Eric Parker asked me about Orlando. What were your impressions of it all? I'll be honest, I won't do that. It's very kind of you to ask a question, but I think it sounds like a cop-out and telling people, watch the other video. But if you watch the Orlando one, it's got a lot of me talking about Orlando. It's one of those where I say at the start, it's not going to be me talking about Orlando. It's mostly going to be videos and photos. And it ends up just being me talking loads on it. So, yeah, if you like Orlando or you're about to go there or anything, go and hear me talking while walking around various very hot places in Orlando. It's essentially this, but me walking around with cool things happening around me, like roller coasters going over my head and stuff. What else we got? Julien Lemour asks, Ali, were you speaking about Georgian keeper Georgi Marmadashvili in the last video? I was. That was who I meant. I actually, because he was way back, they kind of looked at him, and I was talking way back, so I hadn't really kept an eye on what he'd been doing, and apparently signed a new contract anyway. But yeah, maybe one to keep an eye on for the future, because there was definitely a little bit of interest there. But yeah, and he was quite young. Was he 21? I think he was pretty young as well. So maybe one to keep an eye on for the future. But yeah, obviously not for now, because he only recently, I think, signed that big new deal. But yeah, well done for people. I knew it began with an M. I knew it had Illy at the end, and I knew it was Georgian. I was saying it came from Milan, but it was Valencia, wasn't it? What else we got? Diketso Molefi asks, hello, Gold. I like that. Sometimes people from different continents just use my surname, which I get it, because sometimes in different cultures the surname comes first and all this sort of stuff. But it always sounds so blunt, and I love that kind of. That's my kind of humour. Based on how Spurs are playing thus far, and based on the system in which they're currently playing with, which player for you would you like to be signed in the January window that would fit Conte's project, and why would you want that player? Oh, it's a difficult one. It's really difficult, because I think the kind of players I'd like maybe don't fit Conte's system as well, because I would like to see a creative central midfielder come in, but that would fit a 3-5-2, not the 3-4-3, and he's already said he kind of prefers the 3-4-3 with this set of players. So I do think Bastoni would have been a very good addition. I'm hoping Clement Longley comes in and does a great job, but like I say, I wonder if they look at Bastoni again next summer. January maybe less, not as easy. What I would say, I think I said this in the last video, January, I think it will be about maybe any opportunities that come around, of course, but also replacing players who potentially go out, whether that's Brian Hill, whether that's Jaffet has given his loan move. So January's a bit difficult, I guess, for me, just saying my perfect player for a role. I don't know if it's as simple as that, because I think it may be specific types of players to fit specific scenarios that they've then got, really. But yeah, I think Bastoni would have been an ideal player to have brought in. And if some way the window opened up that became a thing in January, I would still go for Bastogne myself. Obviously, Gvardiol was their top target, but looks like City or Chelsea will. I mean, they couldn't even get him this summer, so huge money for whoever ends up getting him. But Bastogne, I think, is going to be a very good player as well. You could argue that Udogie would be a very good January window move, but I can't see any sense in bringing him back early. I don't even imagine that there would be an option to that. You'd probably have to negotiate that, and also you've got Perisic and Session unless one got a bad injury. Christian Loyola asks, if you could have the naming rights of the stadium, what would you call it? It's a difficult one of that because there's the emotional side of it, and of course, I think probably most of it would either love to call it White Hart Lane, which I wouldn't, because for me, that was the old stadium. I know some people have a very different view and they still call it White Hart Lane. That's absolutely right. I've told this little story before, but for me, White Hart Lane was the beautiful grand old stadium where my dad used to take me to matches. This new stadium isn't that stadium for me. It's a very cool stadium that kind of feels a bit like my baby that I kind of watched grow up, and you saw me do the videos outside as the construction was going up. So it isn't White Hart Lane for me, and that's the reason I don't. But I know a lot of people still just call it White Hart Lane. But there's the emotional side of it. Maybe the Bill Nicholson Stadium, I get that. But on a logical, using my head instead of my heart, of course, I think it's going to have to be a name of a company. Of course it is. The money from that, I'm sure a lot of people that would want it to not have a company name probably also want Spurs to spend lots of money and win the league. And the money that would come in from a naming rights deal would go towards, huge transfer stuff that could go towards. It's a difficult one there. It's kind of plugging a company, I guess. It'd be maybe cool to do someone that doesn't have it out there already, like a Nike, like does Amazon, things like that. These kind of huge companies, these behemoths, if that's the right word, of companies that kind of super companies, as it were, global things. It would be quite cool maybe to be the first that's done that nowhere else has that name attached or ever has. That would be quite cool. But I don't know. We still await to see what happens on that, because like I said, Spurs have kind of wanted to get to the end. Well, I'm sure if they got a great offer, it wouldn't have been this long. But I think the idea right now, when we're all speaking to Todd Klein out in Korea, the suggestions seem to be that now the pandemic's gone, or certainly is less of an issue than it was. It's still out there, of course, but they can now really show off the stadium to its max. And you've got the NFL games coming up next month as well, and they can really show it off. Money will be coming back into these big companies that maybe were struggling before, and there's more money to spend. Excuse me. And so hopefully you'll see that happen, but we shall see. What else we got? Lots of people ask me about my match day routines. Indy barking away there downstairs. I don't know if that picked up on the microphone or not. Telling me to wind this up probably, says you're waffling too much. Answer the questions. Ben Bateman asks, do you think Conte's lack of length of contract could deter certain players wanting to come and or Kane extending his contract? Like I say, Spurs have got that option now to take it. Sorry, not now. They've always had that option to take it and extend it. So, I don't think that's an issue so much. I think if players want to join Tottenham Hotspur, they'll join Tottenham Hotspur. And same with Kane. If Kane's happy, he will extend his contract. Like I said, everything I've heard is that Kane is very willing to discuss a new deal. It's now down to Spurs, I guess, to get those talks started. What else we got? Yes, and now into the ones where I think I've answered a few, so I need to get to the ones that I didn't get round to. I promised that I'd get through them, to the ones that I didn't get to. What else we got here? This is apologies. If I end up answering a question that I've answered before, I do apologise. Okay. Altair asks, Could you give your opinion on who is going to be the best attacking prospect in the future, Dane Scarlett or Troy Parrott? It's down to them, to be honest with you. I think if you ask people around the club, certainly there's a lot of excitement about Dane. And obviously he's younger, and they believe that he can be very best. But everyone was saying that about Troy as well. Troy, this is the key bit for all of these players, is these couple of years between essentially 17, 18 until they're 20, 21. And we saw when Harry Kane kind of developed as well. With Troy, he's getting some really important loan experiences right now. Preston this year, MK Dons last year, was it Ipswich before Millwall as well. It all creates him as a player. Again, it's down to them because it's one of these kind of no-win questions. I could say Dane Scarlett is the one that, I've seen both of them play a lot of academy football, and both of them, they're two of the best finishers kind of I've seen as young players. But ultimately, it's which one gets their head down, works the hardest, has a bit of luck because you need that as a young player as well, not getting any bad injuries. And then it's about their development, and we see where they go. Troy is now turning his hands to the Championship, which obviously is a tougher league than in League One. Dane is in League One at the moment, and it'd be interesting to see what happens next summer. Whether they decide Dane, they bring him straight in. Troy, I know, wants to try and kind of have a crack at the first team if he can next summer. That was always the plan, was to go on loan and try and challenge next summer. It depends where they're at. We're still talking, 9 months ago, a World Cup in the middle as well. And just, how far they come, and then decisions are made on whether they get another loan. Because that's the thing, they are still so young. They really are. We've got this thing at the moment, we want everyone to be a wonder kid. We want everyone to be a player that, FIFA or Football Manager, we shove in the team straight away. But in real life, sometimes it's better for them to go away and play and get the confidence, get the experience and development, and then come back at maybe 2021. Sometimes it works that way as best. As we saw, Harry Kane is like the best example of it. Not everyone's a Rooney. Mephisto asks, I don't know if I've answered this one before or not. He asks, what NFL team do you follow? Probably see that on my t-shirt. Is the Giants, because I clearly like Payne. Although started with 2-0 record so far. So started the season well. De Boehly is hopefully going to be the big coach for the future. But yeah, they're definitely. There's probably. They haven't won a Super Bowl in a little while now. So yeah, maybe I do like a team that is a little bit of causes some pain. Jordan Samuel asks, how's the dog? Indy is fine. Indy's doing well. He's had a couple of ligament issues in both his legs in the last couple of years. So we have him. It goes to once a month. Goes to like a water therapy thing, which is sometimes a like a running machine, but with water up to his waist. And sometimes he goes in a pool to swim. Today was the pool. He loves that. Absolutely adores the swimming. There's a swimming instructor called Megan who essentially, if she was a dog, he would marry her. He is quite besotted with her. And so Indy's good. Just smells of swimming pools at the moment, despite the very nice smelling talcum powder shampoo they've put on him afterwards. What else we got? EAGYB16 asks, would you not send Brian Hill to the Championship or maybe Rangers to try and toughen him up? I would have sent him to the Premier League myself, but if the clubs weren't coming forward from the Premier League or he didn't want to go to the Premier League, I don't know. Look, I would have sent him on loan, whatever. Look, I've said before, I do prefer him over some of the people that Spurs were linked with. However, I do think for his development, he did need a loan. And I would have preferred him to be either in England or maybe the Bundesliga, which is a similar-ish kind of league. But yeah, it's difficult trying to. I don't think the Championship. It sounds awful to say, but I think he's better than that now. Rangers, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think Premier League would have been best for him. What else we got? What else we got? Melton 69. Ice cream or custard with sticky toffee pudding? I'm a chocolate cake man. I like my chocolate cakes. I do. If I was having to go with one of those with sticky toffee pudding, probably ice cream. I do like a bit of custard. I'll go with ice cream. What else we got here? Various questions about Orlando. Ji Hyun Cho asks, welcome back. Anyone recognise you and ask for autographs or selfies in America? No, I did a selfie at the airport coming back. A very nice Japanese family. Saw lots of Spurs shirts out there. Quite a few people kind of messaged me on various platforms saying they'd seen me but didn't want to come up. Honestly, always come up. Please do. I still find it ridiculous that anyone would recognise me anyway or ask for selfies and things like that. Autographs seems to be very much in Korea. That was very much maybe their culture. But selfies, I do a fair few of those when I'm travelling out and about. Again, I don't know why. I don't know why I would ever merit that sort of stuff. I'm certainly not any kind of celebrity. What else we got? I've gone down so far. I've got people asking whether I'm still alive because it must have been when I was in America, and everyone was wondering exactly what had happened to me. I haven't heard this one. Zip asks, I see Spurs have been linked with attacking midfielder David Fratesi, who plays for Sassuolo and Italy. Have you heard any rumours? I haven't heard that name, but that doesn't mean it's not. Like I say, Spurs have looked at every single Italian Serie A player out there. But I haven't heard personally any of those myself. There's this one guy. This one guy keeps leaving a comment saying, I'm going to keep asking this question until you see it. I really want to answer it. And it's gone. Where has it gone? Oh, I feel really bad. Where is it? He leaves it. Unless YouTube's removed it because they thinking of it as spamming or something. I don't know. Oh, what a shame. I cannot remember what it was about either. It was a really long question. I'm so sorry. Honestly, you probably will anyway, but please do put it back under the video again. I cannot find it here at all. No. And I think, let's see, what the hell, Mr. G has hands. That's the shorts that I was talking about. Not my shorts, the YouTube short. No, what a shame. I can't find it. I'm so sorry, sir. I think it was a man. No, what a shame. I'm sure it was very good. What else we got here? Let's see. I think I answered that one. It was about Hugo Lloris's successor. Yeah, that was the Georgian keeper, wasn't it? I ended up answering that in the last one. You guys need to give me some new questions for us. I think I've actually got pretty much through all of the questions, which I didn't think I was going to. I've gone back and answered everything and done anything that came on the new one. I don't know the answer to that. Rod Lane asks, isn't Sonny almost joined the 100 club of goals scored for Tottenham in the Premiership? Oh, he must be. Do you know what? I'm going to look as we speak. I'm sorry if it doesn't make great videoing. But I do have all of the players' stats pages come up quite quickly, so it won't take me long. I can literally do it as we chat. Premier League, he has scored. Oh, spot on. Well done. Great shout. He's got 96. So, yeah, 4 away. Sonny will be in the 100 club of the Premier League. Fantastic. Thank you. That's been very helpful. I shall keep an eye on it. I'm sure everyone else would have reminded me of that anyway in the press box. But great stuff. 96 goals, 53 assists in 239 appearances. What a man. That's a great shout. Let's see if there's any more here that I can do that maybe were in previous videos. What else we got? That's about Conte and Juventus. We've kind of covered that now. Oh, that's an interesting one. Did I answer this? Oh, apologies if I did answer it. How long do you see? It's Cameron Root asks. How long do you see yourself making Spurs videos for? Whether or not it's still your job writing or covering Spurs. For me, I hope it's a long haul. Cheers. Very kind of you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. Maybe in the future, if I'm not covering Spurs, would I still? Yeah, maybe I'd still do this to kind of keep myself. I think because I have a lot of thoughts and I need to get them out. It's quite cathartic. So yeah, maybe if I wasn't covering Spurs week in, week out, but then maybe the videos would be lesser for it. Maybe I wouldn't be able to provide you with the insight of kind of being there week in, week out and kind of seeing what's going on behind the scenes. So yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, that. What else we got? Yeah, I've answered that one, haven't I? Derry Dingo had asked why couldn't Brian Keel go on loan to Nottingham Forest. Yeah, they signed everyone else, so yeah, that'd have probably been a good move for him, but nope. The Assassinator asked Mark Guay, homegrown right-footed centre-back, could he have replaced Tanganga? Again, I'm putting out the past tense. I think this might have gone all the way back to video before I went to America, which would have been in the transfer window. As I've said before on him, the Palace defender, Spurs like him. They like him a lot. But I think this window would have been probably a huge price tag as well. Be interesting to see. I think a lot of teams are going to go, especially if he gets involved in the World Cup and has a good World Cup in any way. I think there's going to be a queue of clubs for him, but Spurs certainly would be ones that like him a lot. Jews ask, you do accents. Here's a thought. Instead of hello everyone at the beginning of each video, could you please do let's go in a Harry Kane voice a la Spurs all or nothing? Yeah, I forgot he did that, didn't he? Yeah, probably not. No, I think I'll just stick to my tried and tested, very basic saying hello to everyone. What else we got? Did you replan your holiday knowing that it would be in the final week of the transfer window? I didn't actually. It was purely that holiday was a one from pre-pandemic that got cancelled 3 times because we couldn't go into America at that point. And then if you watched the last video, you've been aware my daughter, youngest, went off to uni. So it became a case of trying to squeeze it in just before she went to uni. And we got back from Orlando and she had a couple of days and then went off to uni. So that was all it was, really. No, but it was, I must admit, it was quite a bonus. I did enjoy not having to be involved in the final week of the transfer window, especially as nothing really happened on an incoming sense at all, other than Will Lancashire, did he come in from Sheffield United? I think that was in that period. But obviously not what everyone was looking for. I appreciate that. Camden had asked, thanks so much for these videos. Any chance your channel will ever be produced as an audio podcast? I know sometimes people ask for that from time to time. I'd probably say for the time being, no. And that's not because I desperately want you all to see my face. I appreciate that sometimes it's easier, or a lot of times it's easier just to listen. But I have a podcast. Golden Guest Talk Tottenham. Guesty and I do that every week. And I don't feel there needs to be 2 versions kind of out there. Guesty and I have a good rapport. We enjoy each other's company. I hope he enjoys my company. So yeah, now if you're looking for a podcast, look that up. It's on all podcast platforms. It's kind of got a similar vibe to this. It's me chatting away, but also a Guesty as well. We take the mickey out of each other. And yeah, and Guesty obviously is if you know, or if you have listened to it, Guesty is an Everton fan, so he comes in with a completely clear. Not that I'd say that I'm particularly. I try to be pretty objective in the way I look at things, but he is, of course, coming completely with no kind of thought for Spurs other than analysing them as an outside observer. Although I reckon he'll become a secret fan. But it's good fun, and we enjoy ourselves, and certainly the response seems to be good. We have a big listenership now, which is fantastic. Yeah, I think that's it really. Otherwise, I'm going back too far in questions. I probably will do another Q&A though. So obviously the questions are there. So if you want to bombard this one underneath with questions, I will do another Q&A at some point in the week. I don't know when, but I will do one. Maybe midweek at some point, maybe Wednesday. So yeah, and obviously we'll know a little bit more of what's happening in the international break as well. So yeah, honestly, do it. I love a mix of questions. Give me a fair few Spurs ones, because the people that just like Spurs stuff will get annoyed if I'm totally answering questions about other stuff. You know, I enjoy talking about my job. That's quite good fun as well. And obviously movies and stuff. I like that as well. So whatever. It's all good. Yeah, so I'm going to head off now. Enjoy my Saturday night. Maybe watch a movie. And then back to work tomorrow. So yeah, as always, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.